In 1923, Li Mei vanished, leaving only embroidered shoes. A century later, Amelia uncovers a forbidden love. Like and subscribe to unravel this mystery. Don't miss our latest video. Lightning split the sky over New York's Chinatown. The storms roar, drowning out the chaos of Canal Street. Amelia Wu sprinted through the downpour, her boots splashing in neon-lit puddles, the weight of her great-aunt's diary in her backpack, driving her toward a crumbling antique shop. Its flickering sign buzzed, promising relics of a past her family never spoke of, a past hinted at by a single, haunting sketch of embroidered shoes. Soaked and shivering, she shoved through the door. The bells jangle, swallowed by thunder. The shop reeked of mildew and secrets, its air thick with the ghosts of forgotten stories. Shelves groaned under chipped jade Buddhas, rusted daggers, and scrolls curling like dead leaves. Amelia's eyes darted to a glass case in the shadows, where a pair of silk shoes glowed under a dying bulb. Their gold-threaded lotus flowers and emerald vines were impossibly vivid, as if woven hours ago, matching the diary's sketch stroke for stroke. Her breath hitched. These weren't just artifacts, they were a key to a truth her family had buried. As she reached for the case, a guttural snarl stopped her cold. "Touch those, and you're dead," the shopkeeper rasped, his scarred face half-lit, a meat cleaver glinting in his fist. Amelia's pulse hammered, but her history student instincts took over. "Who owned them?" she pressed, voice steady despite the fear clawing her chest. The man's eyes flicked to the door, his knuckles whitening. "Leave. Now." Before she could argue, the storefront's window exploded inward, glass shards flying like shrapnel. Two masked figures in black leapt through, their boots crunching debris, knives flashing with lethal intent. The shoes, the taller one barked, voice distorted by a modulator. Amelia dove behind a lacquered screen as the shopkeeper swung his cleaver, slicing the air. The shorter intruder dodged, smashing the case with a crowbar, glass raining down. Amelia's mind screamed, "Move, or die." She lunged, tackling the thief, holding the shoes, crashing into a shelf of porcelain vases that shattered like gunfire. The shopkeeper roared, yanking a shotgun from under the counter. A deafening blast splintered the wall inches from Amelia's head, wood splinters grazing her cheek. She wrestled the shoes free, but the taller thief's knife slashed her forearm, blood soaking her sleeve, gritting her teeth. She kicked their knee, hearing a sickening crack. The thief howled, staggering, but the second one grabbed her hair, yanking her back. Amelia drove her elbow into their ribs, breaking free, and sprinted for the door, shoes clutched tight. The storm swallowed her as she plunged into the street, taxis swerving, horns blaring. Footsteps pounded behind both thieves, relentless, their silhouettes darting through sheets of rain. Amelia zigzagged through alleys, her lungs burning, the shoes silk slippery in her grip. A garbage truck loomed. She slid beneath it, mud smearing her face, holding her breath as the thieves' boots splashed past. "Find her," one hissed. "She's got the key." Key? Amelia's mind raced, trembling. She examined the shoes under a flickering street lamp, noticing a hidden seam, prying it with shaking fingers. She found a silk scrap stitched inside, etched with ancient Chinese script, angular, cryptic, like nothing in her textbooks. She snapped a photo, texting it to Mei Ling, a linguistics friend. The reply buzzed back. "That's a name code. Shanghai, 1920s. Dangerous people want it. Run." Amelia's stomach dropped. The diary's sketch. The attack. The code. It was a conspiracy spanning a century. She stumbled into a 24-hour noodle shop, the shoes stuffed in her bag, blood dripping from her arm. Ignoring stares, she bandaged it with napkins and opened her laptop, hands shaking. The script pointed to a family, Li, and a year 1923. Her great-aunt's diary whispered of a lost woman, erased from their lineage. A search pulled up a faded article. Li Mei, noblewoman, dead of illness before wedding. 1923. No body, no mourners, too perfect, too false. Amelia's gutskreamet kovarup. She booked a dawn flight to Shanghai, her savings gone in a click as she packed in her tiny apartment. Her phone rang, blocked number. Drop the shoes. Woo. Orvegutio. A voice growled, cold as steel. The line died. Amelia's heart thudded, but she checked her locks, barricaded the door with a chair, and sat awake, the shoes on her lap, at the airport. Every shadow felt like a blade. She boarded. The dragon tattoo on the taller thief's wrist seared into her memory, a predator's mark. The plane's engines roared, and Amelia gripped her bag. The shoes a burning weight. Shanghai wasn't just a destination. It was a war zone where Li Mei's truth had been silenced. Someone wanted it to stay that way. And they knew Amelia's name. She wasn't just chasing history. She was hunted. The flight climbed, and she whispered to herself, "I'm coming for you, Li Mei." This was no accident. It was fate. Shanghai's skyline glittered like a blade in the night, its neon towers casting long shadows over the Huangpu River. Amelia Wu crouched in an alley behind the city's oldest library, her backpack heavy with the embroidered shoes, her arm throbbing from the bandaged knife wound. Yet läklauet here. But adrenaline burned brighter. She'd flown 7,000 miles for this moment. The ancient Chinese script hidden in the shoes pointed to a letter locked in the library's restricted archive, tied to Li Mei and a truth someone wanted buried. The building loomed ahead, a stone monolith from the 19th century, its windows dark, save for the faint glow of security lights. Amelia checked her watch, 2:17 a.m. The guard rotation was her only window. She'd bribed a janitor for a stolen keycard. Her savings now a memory, but it was worth it if the letter held answers. Slipping on gloves, she darted to a side entrance, the keycard buzzing her through with a soft click. The air inside was stale, thick with the scent of old paper and wax. Her sneakers were silent on the marble floor as she navigated the labyrinth of shelves. Guided by a map she'd memorized from a black market contact, the restricted archive was in the basement, behind a steel door that required a second code. Mei, Ling's hack had gotten her the digits, but every second felt like a trap. At the stairwell, a flashlight beam swept the corridor. Amelia flattened against a wall, heart pounding, as a guard's boots clomped closer. His radio crackled, "Check Sector 3. Boss says we're on alert." For her, she held her breath, the shoes weight in her bag, a reminder of the dragon-tattooed thieves in New York. The guard passed, and she slipped downstairs, her penlight cutting through the dark. The archive door's keypad glowed red. Her fingers trembled, punching in the code 7-4-9-1. A beep, then a heavy clunk as the lock released. Inside, the air was colder. Rows of locked cabinets stretching into shadow. The letter was catalogued as Li family, 1923. Sealed. According to her contact, she pried open a drawer, rifling through brittle envelopes, until her fingers brushed a yellowed packet, sealed with red wax and marked with the same ancient script as the shoes. Her pulse surged. This was it. As she slipped it into her bag, a floorboard creaked behind her. "You shouldn't be here." "Woo." A voice hissed, sharp and cultured. Amelia Spoon. Penlight catching a man in a tailored suit, his glasses glinting, a silenced pistol in his hand. "Dr. Chen," she gasped, recognizing the historian from her university's guest lectures. His smile was cold. "Those relics belong to my family. Hand them over, or this ends badly." Amelia's mind raced. Chen was a Li descendant. Part of the cover-up, she backed toward a cabinet, calculating. "You hid Li Mei's story," she accused, stalling. Why Chen's eyes narrowed. "She shamed us. You're digging up graves best left closed." He stepped closer, the gun steady. Amelia's hand brushed a fire alarm on the wall. In one motion, she yanked it. Sirens blaring, lights flashing. Chen flinched, and she dove behind a shelf. The shoes and letter clutched tight. Footsteps pounded guards. Drawn by the alarm, "Stop her!" Chen shouted, firing a shot that splintered wood above her head. Amelia crawled through the maze of cabinets, her bandage tearing, blood seeping. She reached a vent, kicking it open, and slid inside, the narrow metal scraping her skin. The vent led to a service tunnel, but shouts echoed behind Chen's men were close. She emerged in a loading dock, rain pelting her as she sprinted into the city's neon jungle. Hiding in a crowded night market, she tore open the letter, her hands shaking. Li Mei's words, in elegant script, spilled out, "I did not die. I chose freedom, fleeing a cage of silk and lies. My truth lies in a temple, hidden from those who'd erase me." A map fragment was tucked inside, pointing to a rural temple. Amelia's breath caught Li Mei had faked her death. Escaped, and left a trail, but Chen's voice rang in her head. My family, they'd silenced Li Mei, and now they wanted the shoes. The letter, her. A shadow moved in the market, a man with a dragon tattoo on his wrist. Scanning the crowd, Amelia slipped into a taxi, heart racing, and whispered, "Drive." Shanghai's lights blurred past, but safety was a lie. The letter was a bomb, and she'd just lit the fuse. Shanghai's 1,923 underbelly thrummed with peril, its alleys thick with coal smoke and the clink of illicit coins. Li Mei, draped in a stolen servant's cloak, darted through the French concessions' chaos, her pulse racing like a hunted deer's. The embroidered shoes, her sole relic from a life she'd shattered, pressed against her chest beneath coarse fabric, their silk threads a defiant spark. Hours earlier, she'd slipped over the walls of her family's Manchu estate, abandoning an arranged marriage that would have chained her to a stranger's will. By dawn, her absence would unleash her father's wrath, his hired mercenaries. Goldead killers, already combing the city's veins. She ducked into a dimly lit tea house, its paper lanterns swaying, the air heavy with tobacco and hushed bargains. Her plan was a desperate thread: reach the docks, board a smuggler's ship, and vanish across the Pacific. But Shanghai was a predator, and she was its quarry. A hand brushed her arm, and she whirled, a pilfered dagger gleaming in her fist. "Whoa, steady there," a voice drawled, warm with an American lilt. A young woman stood before her, chestnut hair cropped bold and short, her green eyes sharp beneath a felt cloche hat. "I'm Eleanor. You look like you're outrunning the devil himself." Li Mei's grip tightened, but Eleanor's easy grin held no malice, only a flicker of recognition, as if she too knew what it meant to flee. "I need a ship," Li Mei whispered. Lowering the blade, Eleanor nodded, motioning to a corner table. "I know a guy, but those shoes fancy stitching. You're no street rat." "Are you?" Li Mei's breath caught. Eleanor saw too much. Hesitant. She spilled her truth, the betrothal, the escape, her dream of a life unbound in Europe. Eleanor's fingers grasped hers, a fleeting warmth. "I'm dodging my own cage," she confessed. "My father's a merchant here, wants me wed to some tycoon's son to seal a deal. I'd rather jump in the river." Their shared rebellion ignited a spark, a bond sealed in the tea-house's haze. Eleanor vowed to get Li Mei to the docks, but trust was a razor's edge. As they slipped into the night, a shout pierced the fog. Her father's men, their lanterns slashing the dark. Li Mei and Eleanor sprinted, weaving through fish carts, barrels crashing behind them. A mercenary's knife flashed, nicking Li Mei's shoulder, blood staining her cloak. Eleanor yanked her into a gambling den, its air choked with whiskey and sweat. They crouched behind crates, hearts hammering, as boots stomped past. Eleanor's hand clasped Li Mei's, steadying her. "We're not done yet," she murmured, and Li Mei clung to the promise. Days melted into stolen hours, Eleanor teaching her to slip through crowds, Li Mei reciting ancient poems under moonlit eaves. Their love bloomed, forbidden and fierce, each glance a defiance of the world's rules. Eleanor secured passage on a British steamer, their path to Paris, to a city that might let them breathe. At a safe house, Eleanor traced their route on a map, her touch lingering. "When we're free," she whispered, "we'll live for us." Li Mei leaned in, their lips meeting a quiet revolution. A creak shattered the moment. Li Mei drew her dagger as a shadow lunged a scarred thug, his machete swinging. "Got you, noble girl," he snarled. Li Mei parried, steel sparking, as Eleanor hurled a chair, wood splintering, the room erupted, cards scattering, men shouting. They fought side by side, Li Mei's blade slicing the thug's arm, Eleanor's fists bruising his jaw. They fled through a back door, smashing into an alley as flames from a tipped lantern chased them. Hiding in a temple's shadow, Li Mei clutched the shoes. Her anchor, Eleanor's eyes blazed. "Tomorrow, we sail," she said, but Li Mei's gut twisted Eleanor's glance, darted. Hiding something, a glint in the dark, confirmed her fear. A locket on a stranger's neck, engraved with Eleanor's family initials. Betrayal loomed, and the docks were a gauntlet away. Li Mei gripped Eleanor's hand, love and dread entwined. Freedom beckoned, but Shanghai's jaws were snapping shut. The Jiangsu countryside simmered under a merciless sun, its rice paddies stretching like a green sea toward the horizon. Amelia Wu stood before an ancient Buddhist temple, its sagging eaves and weathered tiles whispering of secrets older than time. Herr Setchel, heavy with the embroidered shoes, and Li Mei's letter pressed against her hip, the Shanghai Library's gunshot still ringing in her ears. The letter's map fragment had guided her here, to this forgotten sanctuary, where Li Mei's truth, a wooden box, lay hidden in the walls. Sweat beaded on her brow as she faced the head monk, his face creased like ancient parchment. "I seek a relic from 1923, she said, handing over a translated letter and a donation that left her bank account barren. The monk's eyes, sharp as flint, lingered on her bandaged arm, then flicked to the shoes peeking from her bag. Some truths cost more than gold, he warned, but after hours of pleading, he relented, granting permission for a cautious dig. Amelia's pulse thrummed. This was her shot. A local archaeology team, led by Zhang, a steely woman with a scar across her knuckles, joined her, their picks and shovels glinting with purpose, but dread coiled in Amelia's gut. Dr. Chen's cold threat and the dragon-tattooed thug from Shanghai's night market shadowed her every step. As night cloaked the temple, the team breached a sealed chamber behind the main altar, its air thick with dust and silence. Amelia's flashlight danced over faded murals of lotus blooms, her fingers brushing a stone etched with the same ancient Chinese script as the shoes. "It's here," she breathed, heart pounding. With Zhang's help, she pried the stone loose, revealing a hollow niche, a lacquered wooden box, its edges worn, but carvings vivid. Nestled inside, before she could lift it, a low tremor shook the earth. Move Zhang roared as cracks spiderwebbed the ceiling. Amelia grabbed the box, sprinting for the exit, but the ground buckled, a deafening boom swallowing her scream. Beams crashed, burying half the team in rubble. Dust choked her lungs as she clawed through debris, finding Zhang pinned under a fallen pillar. "Leave me," Cheng gasped, blood trickling from her temple. Amelia refused, heaving with all her strength, her wounded arms screaming. She freed Zhang, dragging her toward the collapsing tunnel's mouth, stones grazing her back. Outside, the team staggered into moonlight. The temple's east wing, a smoldering ruin. Zhang coughed, eyes blazing. That was no accident. Explosives. Amelia's blood froze. She scanned the paddies, catching a glint binoculars on a distant ridge. Chen's hired crew had rigged the chamber to bury the truth. Herr Setchel, miraculously intact, held the box. Under a flickering lantern, she cracked it open, hands trembling. A sepia photograph stared back. Li Mei, luminous in a qipao, her arm around Eleanor, the American woman with defiant eyes and cropped hair. Their clasped hands spoke of a love that burned through time. Beneath lay an unsent letter. Li Mei's script elegant, but fierce Eleanor. "My soul is yours. Though the world builds walls between us, I choose you over their chains. Aja de herpin, a dried lotus petal, and a silver locket engraved with Eleanor's initials cradled the note, relics of a life that refused erasure. Amelia's eyes stung. Li Mei's queer defiance was a beacon, a mirror to her own fight. But a roar shattered the moment jeeps tore through the paddies, their headlights slicing the dark. 6 men in black leapt out, led by a figure with a dragon tattoo snaking up his wrist. The box. Woo, he snarled, cocking a rifle. Amelia stuffed the relics into her satchel and bolted, reeds slashing her legs as she plunged into the fields. Bullets whined, shredding stalks inches from her head. She zigzagged, heart hammering, and dove behind an irrigation ditch, mud soaking her clothes. The monks' chants rose, a faint shield, but the men's boots splashed closer, their radios crackling, cut her off at the village Jiang. Limping but fierce, crawled beside her, pressing a flare into her hand. "Head for the river," she whispered. Amelia ignited the flare, its crimson blaze blinding the pursuers, and sprinted, the box's weight a vow. She reached a bamboo grove, its shadows swallowing her, but a flashlight beam pinned her. The dragon-tattooed man loomed, his rifle raised. "Last chance," he growled. Amelia hurled a rock, cracking his knee, and ran, his curse echoing. A farmer's boat bobbed on the riverbank. She leapt in, paddling into the current, reeds cloaking her escape, huddled in the hull. She texted Mei Ling got Li Mei's proof. "Chen's men tried to kill me." The reply buzzed Suzhou. "Safe house. Hurry." As the temple's bells faded, Amelia clutched the photograph. Li Mei and Eleanor's faces etched in her mind, 2 women who dared to love against a world's wrath. Chen's family wanted this silenced, but Amelia was done running. The river carried her towards Suzhou. Toredzvar. Shanghai's 1,923 docks were a cauldron of shadow and stench, the Huangpu River's oily waves slapping against rotting piers. Li Mei crouched behind a tower of barrels, her cloak damp with sweat and river mist, the embroidered shoes pressed against her chest like a fading heartbeat. The British steamer, their lifeline to Paris, loomed ahead, its smokestacks clawing the starless sky. She and Eleanor had planned this for days, board at midnight, stow away in the hold, and sail to a world where their love could live unshackled. But the glint of a locket last night, engraved with Eleanor's family initials on a stranger's neck, had cracked Li Mei's trust. Her stolen dagger weighed heavy in her hand, love warring with dread. Footsteps scuffed the gravel, and Eleanor slipped from the fog, her cropped hair slick, eyes wild with fear. "We're almost there," she whispered, but her voice cracked, betraying something unspoken. Li Mei's stomach twisted. "What's wrong?" she hissed, gripping Eleanor's wrist. Before Eleanor could answer, lanterns blazed, and a dozen men in crisp suits surged from the dark hired by Eleanor's merchant father, their revolvers glinting like vipers' fangs. "Eleanor, come quietly." Their leader growled, his locket swinging, a damning mirror of her family's betrayal. Li Mei's dagger flashed, but Eleanor clutched her arm. "I swear, I didn't tell them," she sobbed, tears streaking her face. "They tracked me." Li Mei's heart begged to believe her, but the men fanned out, cutting off escape. "Your father's done with games, girl." The leader sneered, and the noblewoman, "She's a loose end." Li Mei shoved Eleanor behind a crate and lunged, her dagger slicing the leader's forearm, blood spattering the dock. Gunfire erupted, bullets shredding barrels, splinters grazing Li Mei's cheek. She ducked, dragging Eleanor through the chaos, their hands locked in desperation. A thug's boot caught Li Mei's ribs, knocking the air from her lungs, but she swung, her blade nicking his throat. Eleanor hurled a metal can, its clang scattering 2 men. Buying a breath, they sprinted for the steamer, the gangplank tantalizingly close, but a towering figure blocked their path. Eleanor's father, his silver hair gleaming, eyes cold as steel. "Eleanor, you're sailing to San Francisco tonight," he thundered. "This disgrace ends now." Eleanor clung to Li Mei, her nails digging in. "I love her," she screamed, voice raw. But 4 men seized her, their grips iron, dragging her toward a sleek yacht moored nearby. Li Mei charged, dagger raised, slicing one man's hand, but a revolver's barrel slammed against her temple, stars bursting in her vision. "One move, you're dead." A thug snarled. Eleanor's cries pierced the night as she was forced onto the yacht, its engine roaring to life. Li Mei's soul fractured, but instinct took over. She kneed the thug, his shot tearing through her cloak, and bolted, bullets chasing her into the dock's maze. She dove behind a fishing net, heart hammering. As the yacht's lights faded downriver, Eleanor's screams swallowed by the dark. Alone, Li Mei staggered to a smuggler's den, its air thick with opium and curses. Her contact, a scarred sailor with one eye, leaned against a wall. "Ship's ready," he grunted, eyeing her bloodied state. "Trouble follows you." Li Mei's hands shook as she pulled out the wooden box she'd carried since the temple. She opened it, her breath hitching a photograph of her and Eleanor, smiling under Shanghai's lanterns. An unsent letter, her words to Eleanor scrawled in ink. "My heart is yours, though they tear us apart." A jade hairpin from their first night, a dried lotus petal, and Eleanor's locket, left behind in their last embrace. "One task first," Li Mei whispered. At dawn, she slipped into the rural temple, its stone walls, a sanctuary from her grief. Kneeling at the altar, she pried a marked stone loose, her fingers ra, and placed the box in the hidden niche. "For you, Eleanor," she murmured, "and for those who'll see us." She sealed the stone, the act a vow to their love's endurance. The smuggler's ship, a creaking junk, waited in a hidden cove. Li Mei boarded, the shoes her only tether. As Shanghai's skyline shrank to a smudge, her father's men would hunt her, and Eleanor was lost to America's shores. But the box was her defiance, a beacon for a future that might understand. The sea stretched vast, its waves carrying her tears. Freedom was hers, but it burned like a wound. Shanghai's neon jungle pulsed with electric chaos, its skyscrapers casting a kaleidoscope of light over the Bund. Amelia Wu slipped through the crowded streets, her satchel heavy with the wooden box, the embroidered shoes, and Li Mei's letter, her heart still racing from the temple's collapse. The photograph of Li Mei and Eleanor, burned in her mind, proof of a love her family had erased. She'd reached Suzhou's safe house, a cramped apartment above a noodle shop, where Mei, Ling's contact, a journalist named Liang, waited. His sharp eyes scanned her bandaged arm and mud-streaked clothes. "You're in deep," he said, sliding her a burner phone. "Your family's not just hiding history, they're guarding a fortune." Amelia's breath caught. Liang's research, pulled from archives and whispers, revealed the truth. The Li family, her distant kin, had buried Li Mei's story to preserve their noble legacy, and a hidden trust fund tied to their Manchu estate, a modern descendant, Victor Li, a billionaire with political clout, now led the cover-up, his dragon-tattooed enforcers hunting Amelia to seize the relics. "They'll kill to keep this quiet," Liang warned, his voice low. Amelia's fingers tightened on the box. "Then we expose them." But as Liang opened his laptop to draft an exposé, glass shattered, a brick crashed through the window, followed by a smoke grenade. Choking fumes filled the room as 3 masked thugs burst in, one with a dragon tattoo glaring on his wrist. "The box." "Wu," he snarled, swinging a steel baton. Amelia dove behind a couch, coughing, as Liang hurled a chair, splintering it against a thug's shoulder. She grabbed the satchel and bolted for the fire escape, Liang on her heels, but the tattooed thug tackled her, his baton grazing her skull. Pain exploded, but she kicked his shin, scrambling free. The alley below swarmed with more of Victor's men, their flashlights slicing the dark. Liang yanked her into a side street, Shanghai's neon maze their only shield. Horns blared as they wove through food stalls, ducking under awnings, the scent of sizzling dumplings mixing with smoke. A bullet zipped past, shattering a lantern, and screams erupted from vendors. Amelia's lungs burned, her vision blurring from the blow. But Liang's grip kept her moving. "Metro station," he shouted, pointing to a glowing sign. They plunged into the subway's chaos, leaping over turnstiles as footsteps thundered behind. A thug lungert, his knife flashing, but Amelia swung her satchel, the box's weight knocking him back. Liang shoved her onto a departing train, the doors snapping shut as the thug's fist slammed the glass. Inside, commuters stared, but Amelia clutched the relics, her pulse a war drum. Liang panted, blood trickling from a cut on his brow. Victor's got eyes everywhere. He said, "We need to go public now." "Otahid den internet, Sophie." Amelia uploaded scans of the letter and photo to an encrypted server, her hands shaking. Liang's fingers flew across his keyboard, drafting a story titled Li Mei's Truth, A Century of Silence. But as they hit send, the cafe's lights flickered, and a shadow loomed outside a drone, its camera glinting. Victor's tech tracking them. "Move," Liang yelled, smashing the computer. They sprinted into the night, Shanghai's skyline a glittering trap. A black SUV screeched around a corner. Victor's men inside, their guns drawn. Amelia spotted a motorcycle parked by a bar, its keys dangling. "Can you ride?" she asked Liang. He grinned, adrenaline sharp. They leapt on, the engine roaring as they tore through traffic, tires screeching, the SUV's headlights glaring in pursuit. Amelia clung to Liang, the box pressed between them, as they swerved into a narrow alley, crates toppling to block the path. The SUV crashed, horns blaring, but the drone buzzed above, relentless. Liang skidded to a stop near the river, where a hacker friend waited with a boat. "Get to Hong Kong," she urged, handing them fake IDs. Amelia boarded, the relics her anchor, Shanghai's lights fading as the boat cut through the water. Victor's reach was long, but Li Mei's story was out. A spark in the digital void. Amelia gripped the photograph. Li Mei and Eleanor's love, a fire she'd carry. The fight wasn't over, it was just beginning. Hong Kong's neon veins throbbed with restless energy, but in a claustrophobic safe house above Kowloon's buzzing markets, Amelia Wu felt the weight of a hunted animal. The wooden box holding Li Mei's letter, the photograph of her with Eleanor, and the embroidered shoes sat on a rickety table, its contents, a grenade ready to detonate a century-old lie. Victor Li's drone had nearly pinned them in Shanghai, and his billionaire reach cast a long shadow, but Amelia's resolve burned hotter. With Liang, the journalist, she'd uploaded Li Mei's story to a global platform, the scanned letter and photo blazing under the title Li Mei's Defiance, a Love Unsilenced. The post erupted, shared from Tokyo to Toronto, translated into countless tongues, a digital uprising hailing Li Mei's courage and her queer love with Eleanor. Hashtags Blomed, Li Mei Lives. Number, Love Unbound, carrying her truth to millions, but Victor's family, guardians of a Manchu fortune and a shameful secret, struck back with venom. As Amelia tracked the post's spread on a burner laptop, Liang's phone lit up with a hacker's alert. "Victor's cyber goons are on you. They've leaked your location." Within minutes, Amelia's inbox drowned in death threats. Her university profile was defaced, and forged headlines screamed she'd stolen sacred relics. Victor's media empire was a machine, but the world's voice was a tidal wave. Activists, historians, and queer collectives rallied, their posts burying the lies, their protests outside Li family offices from Shanghai to London, waving Li Mei's image like a flag. Amelia's chest tightened. Her fight was no longer alone. Yet the safe house felt like a trap. A thud at the door froze her, Liang's knife flashing as he crept to the peephole. A courier, face obscured, left a package, no sender. Just a scrawled note, San Francisco, Eleanor's blood, find the diary. Amelia's pulse surged. Eleanor's memoir, a whispered rumor Liang had chased, could seal their story. The package held a USB with a single file, an address in San Francisco's Chinatown. They booked flights with fake IDs, but at Hong Kong's airport, A man with a dragon tattoo lingered near check-in, his eyes drilling into Amelia. She clutched the box, weaving through crowds, her heart a drumbeat. On the plane, turbulence mirrored her dread. Victor's men were close. San Francisco's fog enveloped them as Amelia and Liang met Clara, Eleanor's great niece, at a Chinatown museum. Her hands trembled as she saw the photograph. "That's my great-aunt," she whispered, unlocking a vault. Inside, Eleanor's diary, its pages brittle, sang of her love for Li Mei, the dockside betrayal, and a life in America haunted by loss. "I wrote for her," Eleanor penned, "so our love might live." Amelia's eyes burned. Two women, torn apart, now reunited in truth. Clara scanned the diary, linking it to Amelia's post, and the movement roared louder. Universities and archives demanding Li Mei and Eleanor's story be canonized. Victor's final gambit, a televised smear calling Amelia a fraud, collapsed as global rallies, from Seoul to São Paulo, chanted Li Mei's name, their banners a sea of defiance. Amelia's family, cornered by shame, issued a public retraction, denouncing Victor's lies. Back in Kowloon, Amelia and Clara planned a virtual exhibition via encrypted video call, uniting the shoes, box, and diary. A crash outside a dumpster toppling sent Liang to the window, his knife ready. "Just a drunk," he muttered, but Amelia's nerves screamed. The dragon-tattooed man hadn't followed. Victor's empire was cracking, but safety was a ghost. She opened the box, tracing Li Mei and Eleanor's faces, their love a spark that had ignited a revolution. On her laptop, she posted for Li Mei and Eleanor, who loved without fear. "We honor you." The post went viral, shared by millions, a vow etched in code. As sunrise painted Kowloon gold, Amelia fährt av ett lift. The battle won, but the war unfinished. San Francisco had woven Li Mei and Eleanor's threads together, but Shanghai beckoned to lay their story at its heart. Victor's shadow lingered, but Amelia was ready, the relics her sword. Shanghai's autumn dusk painted the skyline in hues of amber and steel, the Huangpu River's ripples catching the city's neon heartbeat. Amelia Wu stood in the Shanghai Museum's cavernous atrium, her breath steady but her scars both visible and hidden, throbbing with the weight of her journey. The embroidered shoes, wooden box, and Li Mei's letter rested in a fortified glass case at the exhibit's heart, their glow a beacon for the opening of Li Mei's legacy, a love unbound. Clara, Eleanor's great niece from San Francisco, had flown in, her digitized diary entries soaring across massive screens, Eleanor's words entwining with Li Mei's in a tapestry of defiance and love. The hall buzzed with hundreds historians, queer activists, descendants of 1,923 Shanghai, and global media, each drawn to a story that had shattered a century's silence. Amelia's path, from New York's rain-drenched alleys to Jiangsu's sabotaged temple, had forged this moment, but Victor Li's shadow loomed, his billionaire empire battered yet venomous. His dragon-tattooed on forces, though diminished, were relentless, and Liang's warning crackled through her earpiece. "Victor's got 6 men outside, maybe more." Tattoo spotted. "Watch the exits." Amelia's pulse surged, her hand brushing the bandaged arm from Shanghai's chases. She scanned the crowd, her historian's eye catching a caterer near the East Wing, his tray unsteady, a dragon tattoo peeking from his cuff. "Liang, now," she whispered, weaving through guests to a shadowed alcove. The caterer dropped his tray, a silenced pistol flashing, but Amelia was quicker. She kicked a display stand, its bronze vase crashing into his chest, knocking him flat. 2 more thugs burst from a service corridor, knives gleaming, their faces twisted with intent. Cows erupted, guests screamed, toppling chairs. As Liang tackled one thug, his fist cracking bone, Amelia dove for the fallen pistol, her fingers closing around its grip as a third man lunged, his blade grazing her shoulder, blood welling. She fired into the ceiling, plaster exploding, the blast halting the attackers. "Drop it," she roared, Voice cutting through panic, museum security stormed in, tasers crackling, cuffing the thugs as the tattooed man spat, "Victor will bury you." But the crowd, instead of fleeing, rallied, phones flashing, live streaming the assault, a testament to Li Mei's unyielding spirit. Amelia stood, blood dripping, but unbroken, the relic safe. The exhibition opened under tripled security, the hall swelling to capacity, every seat taken, ailes packed. Amelia's family, once architects of Li Mei's erasure, stood among the throng, their faces heavy with shame and hope. Her aunt, Mei, Ling's mother, approached, her hands trembling as she clasped Amelia's. "We feared her truth would ruin us," she choked, tears streaming. "You've given us redemption." Amelia's uncle, silent until now, added, "We'll fund a foundation in her name." The words cracked a dam in Amelia's heart. Forgiveness was raw, but it bloomed here, a fragile bridge to healing. Clara joined them, her voice soft but firm. Eleanor's family hid her too. "We're rewriting history together." Amelia took the podium, her gaze sweeping the crowd. Voice resonant, Li Mei and Eleanor loved fiercely. Against a world that branded them outcasts, their courage reshapes us. Applause thundered, shaking the hall, some sobbing as screens glowed with the photograph Li Mei and Eleanor, hands clasped, eyes alight with rebellion. A young activist in the front row raised a fist, shouting, "For love unbound," and the chant rippled. A wave of unity, yet Amelia's soul yearned for closure beyond this triumph. At dawn, she returned to the Jiangsu temple, its rebuilt walls radiant in the morning mist, the scars of its collapse now smoothed by time. The head monk, his eyes deep as ancient wells, greeted her with a nod, kneeling at the altar where Li Mei had hidden the box. Amelia scattered lotus petals, their fragrance entwining with incense. A ritual of release. "You're free," she murmured, the shoes in her lap, their silk warm, as if Li Mei's spirit lingered. The monk approached, his robes rustling, and pressed a brittle scroll into her hands. "From the wreckage," he said, voice low, unrolling it. Amelia found Li Mei's script, a poem etched in fading ink. "Our hearts are rivers, carving paths through stone. Derschfell." The words, a final embrace from a woman who dared to live true. Amelia clutched the scroll, her own courage forged in Li Mei's fire. Back in Shanghai, the exhibition drew tens of thousands, its story seeping into curricula, films, and global archives. Li Mei and Eleanor's names synonymous with resilience. Victor's family, their influence gutted by public scorn, vanished into irrelevance, their wealth powerless against a world awakened. Amelia walked the bund, the river's flow mirroring her peace. Her family, now allies, poured resources into scholarships and memorials for Li Mei, their atonement a quiet vow. She met Liang at a riverside cafe, his bruises faded, his grin wide. "You didn't just save history," he said, raising a glass. "You made it." Amelia toasted back, Li Mei's poem in her pocket, a talisman of strength. At the museum, she pressed her hand to the glass case, and the shoes a farewell to a friend who'd guided her. A final post, shared by millions, sealed the legacy for Li Mei and Eleanor, whose love remade the world. As Amelia boarded a flight home, the scroll and poem tucked in her bag, she felt whole. Shanghai's skyline faded below, but Li Mei's light burned eternal, a fire in her soul that would never dim. In 1923, Li Mei fled. Erasel vorher forbidden, love. Amelia's quest unveiled her courage, healing a century's wounds. Thank you for listening. Like, share, and subscribe to catch our latest videos. Hit the bell to never miss a story.